I created G-plans out of nutrition frustration. One day during nutrition studies at Duke University, we came across a revelation. We discovered that everyone has a completely unique metabolic structure and type. Eating a generic diet program will not get you the results you want, and you will continue on a path of yo-yo dieting forever. Ultimately, sustainable food programs are built within your own specific metabolic template.
I eat what Dr. G tells me to eat for my metabolic type. I don't call this program a diet because I eat more than on other programs.
Hello, I'm Savannah. I'm so glad to see you here. Glad you've joined me for another nutrition masterclass today. We have a really interesting, important topic we're going to discuss today, and that's about inflammation. So inflammation, of course, can occur for a ton of different reasons, and it absolutely can play an impact in your weight loss progress. So today we're going to talk about exactly what is inflammation, some more of the common causes of inflammation, and then some good general tips that you can take to help reduce that overall inflammation as well. So as a reminder today, please feel free, if you have some questions come up, as well, I'll always be asking you a question in our presentation as well. I love to hear your feedback. So if you have other questions come up, go ahead, add those to the chat box. I love to take those and chat with you at the end. So we will go ahead and dive right in and get started. All right. All right, so today's topic is how inflammation can affect weight loss. Okay. All right, and so this is our table of contents for today, our little overview. First off, we're going to dive in and talk about what is inflammation exactly. We're going to go over how can inflammation affect your progress. I'm going to ask you a question. Let me know. Do you feel that inflammation could personally be affecting you and your progress? Then we'll go over some good tips to help reduce that inflammation. And then we're going to close out with our tip of the week and then this week's special promotion. All right, and so always, as a reminder, please feel free to send me an email. So you'll find my email there on the screen. This will also be added in the chat box for you today as well. Just my first and last name at gplans.com. So you can feel free, ask a question in the chat box today. If you have something else you might like to reach out to me personally, go ahead and send me an email. Okay, so getting started. What exactly is inflammation? Chronic inflammation refers to a state of persistent activation of the immune system. Inflammation in itself, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's only an issue when our bodies prolong this inflammation after that danger or threat has passed. So it's really that chronic inflammation. It's going to occur for a longer period of time. That's what can cause more issues. Some symptoms of chronic inflammation can include digestive issues, skin issues, joint pain, aches and pains, brain fog, fatigue, mood disorders, or it could also be as a disease that is caused by chronic inflammation. So lots of different symptoms you can see there. Lots of different ones. And again, this can change from person to person. And many causes. So there are many causes of inflammation. Some of these include diets high in inflammatory foods, gastrointestinal issues, food intolerances, nutrient deficiencies, chronic stress, lifestyle factors, and many more. Common inflammatory foods also include more highly processed foods, conventional dairy, high-fat processed foods, and gluten for some people. It's also very important to know how that you individually react to various foods, as certain foods can maybe be more inflammatory for some people and not as much for others. So that's a really important one too. It's so key to know you. Same thing with just foods that you might find you're a little sensitive to. You're going to want to avoid those, of course, because they will promote inflammation. So pay attention to what works best for you as well. And I always like to suggest trying out a food diary. If you find that you have some inflammation, try out a food diary, and that's going to help you to narrow down and see how you react, how you feel after different foods as well. Okay, so how can inflammation affect your weight loss progress? When inflammation is present, you might notice that your progress is moving more slowly, even though you're sticking to your plan. This is because chronic inflammation, it affects your hormones and slows down your metabolism, making weight loss more challenging. The hormonal changes that occur can also lead to more increased hunger and food cravings. In addition, chronic inflammation can also lead to insulin resistance. When your body is resistant to insulin, this can cause increased fat storage and make weight loss more challenging as well. Being overweight can also cause increased inflammation, so it can kind of be a vicious cycle here. So losing weight in general also, getting to a healthier weight, that's going to in turn also help reduce inflammation. So you can see how that can be a bit of a cycle. So tell me a little bit at this time, do you personally feel that inflammation could be affecting your progress? Let me know in the chat box. Are you noticing certain symptoms, certain things, or have you narrowed down? Are you aware of any personal triggers for you that cause inflammation or certain foods? Yeah, share with me in the chat box. I'd love to read and share some of your thoughts, your ideas, and where you are. So please share with me. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so made it here. Tips to help reduce chronic inflammation. So again, these are going to be some big picture tips that definitely will help reduce inflammation. Again, this is a good starting point, and as I mentioned before, this can be a little bit different for everyone, so it's important to know you. Maybe try that food journal, food diary, keep track of how you're feeling with different things. Learn what works best for you, but these tips here are an excellent starting point to help you reduce overall inflammation. First is going to be to focus on nutrient-dense whole foods. So really stick to those whole foods and avoid more highly processed foods. The chemicals, the additives, the extra sugar and fat content in more processed foods are all potential sources of irritation that lead to more inflammation. Shop the perimeter of the store. That's always a good tip. So, of course, when you're in the grocery store in general, if you're shopping the perimeter, the outside of the store, that's going to have you sticking to more whole food options for the most part. Also, be aware, of course, like I mentioned, of any foods that may trigger you specifically and remove these from your diet. So if you are a member of G Plans, this is going to be a great place for you to start. Of course, our diets are focused on whole foods at first and foremost. And we're going to make sure also that a lot of foods like dairy, gluten, these foods that can kind of be inflammatory for a lot of people, they are minimized or removed from our plans as well. Next is improve your gut health. Studies show that whole foods-based diets that, again, limit processed foods, they also promote a more diverse gut microbiome and lower levels of inflammation. When you consume a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, that's a great way. Again, that's going to benefit your gut microbiome. Also consider adding in maybe some probiotic, prebiotic foods, or a probiotic supplement to give your microbiome a boost as well. Next up is manage stress levels. So I know this is one where, again, we think about our meal plan, we think about portion sizes, things like this, and we might kind of put stress levels to the side. So important. Focusing on mental health is key because low-grade inflammation, it won't go away if our stress levels stay high. Focus on managing your stress levels a bit by maybe just setting aside even 10 minutes a day. Use that time to find what works best for you. That could look like listening to some relaxing music, taking deep breaths, trying yoga, going on a short walk. And also focus on sticking to a sleep schedule and prioritize quality sleep. So sleep is also so essential to help our bodies heal and reduce inflammation as well. And lastly, eat a balanced diet. So when you eat a balanced combination of macronutrients at each meal, and you focus on sticking with carbohydrate sources that again are more whole foods based, so they're higher in fiber, this is going to help to keep your blood sugar levels more balanced and stable throughout the day. So yeah, again, if you're following G plans, if you're a member, we are always going to make sure your plan is very well balanced. So each meal and snack is nice and balanced. And that's going to be a great place for you to start, making sure that you're eating very balanced and a whole foods based diet as well. All right, so we made it to my tip of the week. My tip of the week for this week is get outside. So this is another factor that can actually really could play a role in inflammation levels. So we know that getting some fresh air is definitely important. However, now more than ever, we're certainly indoors, probably more than ever before. So it's really important to ensure that you are considering that outside time. It's very important to your health. When you wake up in the morning, try stepping outside first thing after you get up and get some sunlight in your eyes. This actually helps to regulate your circadian rhythm and promotes better sleep. So when we get outside, we get that sunlight in our eyes first thing. It helps to, again, reset that circadian rhythm so that we know it is indeed morning time, and melatonin production will actually help to be regulated, and it will start later in the day, helping you get a better night of sleep. It's also important to ensure that you get a bit of sun on a regular basis for optimal vitamin D levels. Do this by getting outdoors for about 10 to 15 minutes each day or a few days each week. And when you do that, you're going to want, of course, to wear a tank top, wear shorts, have some of your skin exposed. So I know that's another thing is we may stress, hey, get out of the sun, don't be in the sun. But a certain degree of sunlight is so important for, again, circadian rhythm, but also vitamin D production. We know how important that is for overall health. So get a little bit of sun. Make sure you're doing that. So if you're inside a lot working, make sure you prioritize that outside time, that time with the sun. All right, and last thing here today is our special promotion of the week. So today's special promotion, this is going to be for current customers only. So check out your emails after this call today. We have a great offer for 2 weeks of prepared meals just for $65. So if you haven't done those before, again, this is a great option to give yourself a little bit of less time spent preparing meals. So I always like to say if you're getting started on your plan as well, it's a great thing to consider. Makes things a little bit easier on you. So check that out in your email. Again, 2 weeks of meals for just $65. All right, and this does bring me, this is to the end of today's presentation. So if you have any other questions or comments you'd like to add to the chat box, go ahead and do that at this time. Okay. All right. Okay, Rebecca had a question about nightshades. She needs to avoid those. Rebecca, what I would suggest actually, probably the best thing to do is to use the swap ingredient function within the plan. So if you wanted to consider working with a nutritionist, we could also definitely ensure that that's not no nightshades are available within what you see on your plan. But that's what I would suggest. If you do see a nightshade pop up, go ahead and click on that single ingredient within that recipe. And of course, it's going to give you additional options to choose for that recipe. So go ahead, find another option, select that, and then the plan, of course, will adjust that portion size to make sure it's in the right range for you. All right, and Natalie said, what does inflammation look like? Again, that's a good question. It can range a lot and can be different. You can have different symptoms from individual to individual. But for the most part, what we went over today, kind of having some aches and pains, just not in general feeling your best, can definitely be a sign of chronic inflammation. So be in tune with that. One thing that can be tough is, I did mention a food journal today. One thing that can be tough with that is if you are kind of narrowing down, trying to see what you might have a reaction to, it's important to keep in mind that with some foods, you might not even have an inflammatory reaction to it in a day or two. So it might not be an instant reaction. So keep that in mind if you're considering doing a food journal as well. All right, Linda said she believes gluten and sugar are triggers for her. Absolutely. Scott says, get off the fad diets. They will only harm you. Absolutely, Scott. I love that. You're so right. You got it. You'll notice a trend in a lot of our masterclasses. We talk a lot about eating a balanced diet, focusing on a whole foods-based diet. So again, avoiding those crash diets, those fad diets, sticking to a more balanced plan that's going to focus on sustainability. It's going to help you in a lot of different aspects. All right, Joanne said she got off her plan a little bit, had some cheese, she had some bloating and digestive issues. What better types of cheese are there for a treat? That's a good question. Joanne, I would say you might find that if you're noticing with dairy as a whole, you get these same symptoms. You might be a little bit lactose intolerant or sensitive to dairy as a whole. So I would say you might want to steer clear of dairy for a while. And there are definitely some great vegan cheese alternatives out on the market. Also, we do have a couple recipes in our plan that do incorporate some of those too. So definitely check that out. You might want to steer clear for a little while. All right. And Natalie also asked, are there any meal deals in the UK? That's a good question too. Unfortunately, at this time, these meal deals are only for the United States. So just United States currently. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, and then I see here, it looks like Gabe says, I find that if I'm making my own meals, I get about 80% of proper macros, but could use some tips to fill the gap. That's a really good question. So I would actually recommend, Gabe, I would recommend especially if you're getting started with your plan, you might want to try to stick a little more to the recipes in the app, because the app is going to guide you, of course. So one great way to do that is, of course, you can swap recipes, but if you choose a recipe and maybe there's just an ingredient or two that you want to change, go ahead and click on those single ingredients in that recipe, and it's going to give you, for example, if it's broccoli, it's going to provide you with other sources, other options, other vegetables to choose. So it gives you those suggestions. So you can kind of customize that way, kind of get close to a meal that you'd like to make those little changes, and the app is going to adjust those portion sizes to make sure everything's appropriate for you. So that's going to make things a little bit easier as you get started. I would suggest kind of sticking with that as you get going. All right, and got one more question here. What is the calorie range you would recommend when trying to lose weight for women? This, of course, it depends on a lot of different factors. And another thing that's important too is you really don't want to stay at one calorie intake for too long of a period of time. That can cause what we call metabolic adaptation, and you might kind of see a stall in your progress. So I would say start with a really good plan. Sign up for one of our plans in the app, or sign up to work with a nutritionist, and we're going to make sure that we have you at the right intake level at the right times as well. Okay. And Tabitha says she's learning a lot about what is a balanced diet, trying hard to stick with her plan. That is awesome, Tabitha. Keep it going. Know that, of course, things are going to happen. There's going to be hard days. Just learn from it and just get right back on track. Okay. And Diane, it's so good to see you here, Diane. She says, does free and a menu mean you don't have to worry about swapping? You got it. Don't have to worry about swapping. You can use that free item if you'd like, or you can leave it out. No big deal. All right. And okay. All right. I'm glad that was a good tip, Gabe. Yeah, that'll keep things a little more simple as you get started. Swap those ingredients, kind of customize things that way. That's going to help you out. All right, and this brings me to the end of today's presentation. So hope this was a helpful topic today, and keep in mind, if you have any other more personal questions, please feel free, send me an email. You can still do that. Email's up there in the chat box today. I really hope to see you again next week. So, of course, I'm live every Wednesday at 12 Pacific time with another nutrition masterclass. So I'll be right here, same time next Wednesday, and I hope to see you then. Have a great rest of your day.